Let me reach for a couple books here. Full disclosure, if you haven't already noticed, it has taken me a couple days to videotape some of these segments. So this isn't just one sit down. That's really hard for someone as inexperienced in this field as myself. I stand in front of a classroom of high school students on a daily basis, but doing videos is a different type of animal altogether. So please bear with me. So here we have two books that represent two worldviews. Your students who attend a secular college is going to be inundated by the worldview that this signifies by Charles Darwin's Origin of Species. And if you're a Christian, your worldview should be shaped by the Holy Bible. In a nutshell, the Origin of Species tries to explain how animals have evolved from a single species. Darwin thought that small incremental changes over a long period of time, a species could become something else, given time and the right environmental conditions. Sea creatures eventually would come out of the ocean and become land creatures. These land creatures, through continual Darwinian processes, would eventually be able to fly, and so on and so on. Sound familiar? It is a good story, but it lacks some very critical pieces of scientific evidence, which we will showcase in this video. Darwin's book proposes a worldview where God is not needed because nature itself creates everything. It has several missing parts, the biggest being, how did we get here in the first place? But other scientists have built on his ideas and filled in a lot of the blanks, or so they claim. We need to understand if your child comes to you and is struggling with their faith, it's because Darwin's worldview has become stronger in their eyes than their understanding of the God of the Bible. Christians who try to defend the faith at that moment will often deny science by using the Bible or a scripture in the Bible to say, science is wrong because God is right. I'm going to propose to you a different approach you should consider using because objecting to the truth conveyed by Darwin using science is not a miraculous story. It's just based on the known science data. Tell your student, my skepticism to Darwin's theory is not from my understanding of the Bible, but it is based on the scientific merit of his theory. I will be going over some basic background information, and you may wonder why you need it. It is to help you have a conversation in which you have a basic understanding and you sound informed. What we're going to go through tonight will help you create an objection to Darwin's theory from his own words and his own book. So I want to read to you a passage from the Origins of Species, from my little paperback version. It's in chapter 10. If you were to get like the expensive hardcover version, I think it's probably in chapter 9. But it's only about 2 paragraphs of reading, but Darwin himself brings up some of the strongest objections to his theory. I'll give you some additional insight into what he's saying as we go along. Then we will go over 4 or 5 things that you want to convey to your student, or if you're the one that's questioning your faith and Christianity, these are things you need to ponder about Darwin's theory, because Darwin couldn't figure this out in his life, and the problem still remains 160 years later. A little background information before I read the passage from the book. The passage is talking about the lack of transitional fossils within the fossil record. Fossils are the remains of plants and animals from the distant past that provide us a clue about their form and existence within the geologic record. How many fossils exist on Earth? Well, I did what everybody else does. I Googled it and it came back 1 trillion. But fossils have been documented, meaning the fossil's exact location with the rock strata where the fossil was found on Earth, what particular kind of plant or animal it was. That's what I mean by documenting. Fossils of documented varieties are much rarer. only about 2 million have been documented by scientists. Fossils have been found on every continent on the planet. So they are a pretty common occurrence if you go to the right location. Sometimes fossils inform us of important events in Earth's history that are very well documented on a worldwide basis. One of them is called the Cambrian explosion, which occurred about 530 million years ago. This was such an important event in Earth's history that everything before the Cambrian explosion is lumped together as pre-Cambrian. It was just not as important to life on this planet as what came during the Cambrian explosion. This was the start of complex multicellular organisms on a grand scale. Within the Cambrian period rock record, we find a vast array of fossilized marine creatures that are very unique, which suddenly appear with no known progenitor that links them. These progenitors are known as intermediate varieties or transitional links in Darwin's book. Darwin's theory proposes that species evolve from lower and less complicated life forms into higher and more ordered forms throughout Earth's history. During the Cambrian explosion, we have hundreds of new and unique species that all appear at almost the same time, but yet no fossil evidence of a progenitor is found within the lower rock strata of the Precambrian era. Darwin knew this at the time, but he felt the geologic record was incomplete. And certainly fossils are rare events, but to have no transitional fossils is a big problem for Darwin's theory. So we're going to read what Darwin wrote about that, and you make up your own decision on whether this is an important point or something that should be ignored at this point within the scientific community.